All right, my clock says 7 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Once again, this is the Excel 101. It is Introduction to Excel, Beginning Excel. I will let you know that I am a last-minute substitution here. Unfortunately, our regular presenter for these classes, I don't know if any of you have come before, but Bill is the one who usually does these classes. He is wonderful. Unfortunately, at the last minute, he couldn't attend tonight, so I'm taking his place. My name is Beth Clower. I'm actually the business liaison and the instruction librarian at the Glen Ellen Public Library. So hopefully we'll all be okay here tonight. Please do make sure to use the chat. If you have a question, go ahead and type your question into the chat. I will do my best to both stay on topic and keep my eye on the chat to be able to be as interactive as possible in this kind of a format. If we get down to the end and there's still time and I haven't covered something that you specifically wanted to, we'll see if I remember to ask for that. If I forget and we have a little time and one of you wants to say, hey, I have an extra question, go ahead and remember to do that at the end. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, first and foremost, is, give me a second. Oh, by the way, I'm working on a Mac here at home, a very old Mac, and there is a very small possibility that it will just simply shut down with no warning. If for any reason this webinar shuts in the middle, that's why. That's what has happened, is that my very old home Mac has shut down with no warning. No, I do not. I want to close this out. If my Mac does shut down with no warning, then I will hop back on, and hopefully you will all be able to hop back on, and we'll get going again as quickly as possible, but hopefully that won't happen. So first things first. First is, how do you open up Excel? How Excel works on Mac versus a PC is mostly similar. When there's something specific that is different, and I know that is different, I will try and remember to explain to you what the differences are. And I'm going to try and keep the chat window open so I can see if anyone sends me any questions. So what I have done here is I have very simply opened up an Excel. I've simply gone into my Excel and I've opened it up. And this is what it looks like when you first open it. These are the recent Excel things that I have worked in. I can open a new one here, or I can go here. Hopefully you can see where I'm moving my cursor around, because that's how I'm going to have to show you guys where I'm talking about. You can do it here, but these are templates. And let me show you, there are more templates here. And if you look at that, you can see there's a whole bunch of other templates that you can use. So if you're specifically going into Excel to do something very particular, to create a family budget or to create a calendar or something like that, you might as well go ahead and use one of their templates instead of recreating the wheel and doing your own. We're not going to do that though. We are going to go ahead and open up a blank workbook, and you do that in Mac. You do it by clicking and then coming down to the bottom and hitting create, double clicking, or in a PC, you just click on it and it'll open for you. So that's what we have here. What we have here is a new spreadsheet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go basically step by step, try and explain to you what this stuff at the top is. If I'm talking about something in particular and it's not making any sense, please do feel free to type something in the chat. Hey, wait, that doesn't make sense, or I don't get that, or, you know, stop. Whatever you feel comfortable typing, and you can type quickly. So the first thing we have, let's get some terminology going. So these are called tabs: home, insert, draw, page layout, formulas, data review, view. These are called tabs, and each tab has its own ribbon. And the ribbon is this entire thing along the top here with all these various different tools and hands up here. So we have tabs and we have ribbons. Then what we also have is up here, this is called the quick access bar. Do you see where my cursor is up at the very top? These are things that you use on a regular basis. For instance, this one is save. And please notice as I put my cursor over something, you don't see the screen that I'm seeing. Is anyone else not seeing the Excel screen? Can anyone see the Excel screen? No, nobody can see it. Okay. Give me 1 second. We are on the last slide. Okay. Working on it. Give me a second here, folks. Okay, I'm clicking the button that says resume share, but it is not working. So give me a second. Okay, I've done that. I've done that. How about now? Now, can you see it? Yeah? Okay, good. Everybody okay? We're all in the, yes? Okay, good. All right, so very, very quickly, I'm going to review what I was just saying. These are the tabs. Home, insert, draw, page layout. These are tabs. And then what's underneath this long thing at the very top underneath this is called the ribbon. So right now you see the green line under the word home. This tells me that I'm in the home tab and this is my home ribbon. These are all the functions that are inside of home. If I change to insert, you'll notice the functions in the ribbon change. I draw tab. So each tab has its own set of commands and tools inside of the ribbon. Okay? So that's the first thing. The next thing is what I was talking about was this quick access bar up here at the top, inside of this little green band at the top. These are the commands that you use all the time. So this one's home. And you'll notice when I hover my cursor over anything here, if you wait for a second, it will tell you what that thing is, which is very convenient when you don't know what you're looking for. The save is always up here. This is my little print icon. One of the ways you can customize this, there's a little arrow here. If you open it up and you go to more commands, these are the popular commands. If you want something a little more detailed, these are, give it a second, all of the commands, starting with numerals and then going in alphabetical order, and you'll see just how many there are. And if you wanted one, you would click on it, you would click on this arrow, it would show up over here, and then you'd have to hit save or apply. I don't want that, so I'm going to move it back. But that's how you can customize, don't apply. This is how you can customize this quick access bar up here. So if there's some command that you tend to do over and over and over again, you go ahead and put it up here so that you can use that all the time without having to go into any of your ribbons to get that particular tool. Let's see, what else do we have? On mine, usually on a PC, one of the first things I like to do, if you haven't already done it, is open up this more commands and put in your help command. You would do that by opening it up, go to more commands. You do this on a PC. You go to here, all commands, and then give it a second. Down here, they're alphabetical. You look for help, you find it, you move it over. The problem is on a Mac, it is at the top here where, you know, where I have my file, edit, view, insert, all the way at the top here. This is where help is on the Mac, and it's just always up there. So there is no moving it into my quick access bar. Next thing I want to show you, this, again, this is slightly different, a Mac to a PC, but if I wanted to make this go, and hopefully this won't stop the screen sharing, but if I wanted to maximize this, I, on a Mac, press the little green button and it maximizes it. So it takes up my entire desktop. And then to get back out of that, I move my cursor to the top of the screen. I wait a second. The green bar comes back down and I can click that little green button again and it brings it back. Are we all still okay? Everybody can still see the screen? Somebody give me a yes or no, please. Perfect. Thank you. Great. Thank you for raising your hand. I appreciate that. Okay. So now, the other thing we do on a Mac, this yellow button is for me to minimize it, which means it disappears into my dock at the bottom. So it doesn't close. It just gets off my desktop. And then obviously this is how I close. Okay, now this bar down here, the first thing we have here, right now it says C9. You see if I click in the cell, now it says A1. It will say whatever cell I'm in. This is called the range name, if you will. If I wanted to name a range of cells or name an entire table, I would do that up here. That's not really part of beginning Excel. I just wanted to let you know. I'll give you a very small example here. So if I want to, I'm going to highlight some cells, and now up here I can simply call this, oh, big clue, you cannot put spaces in here. If I'd put a space in between here and then I tried to hit enter, it would say to me, oh, nope, sorry, can't do that, because you can't put spaces when you name a range. So section, okay. And then I hit enter. So now this section is called my section. If I move over here, and this is really only for really large data sets, or if you're making formulas and this is a shortcut. If I move over here, but then see how this, if I click on here, it gives me that name that I created. I click on it and it moves me right back there. It's a nice little shortcut. It's beyond really basic Excel, but it's a nice shortcut. But one of the nice things is, notice it's still there. Up here in the quick access bar, see this little arrow that kind of curves and points to the left? And when I hover my cursor over it, it says undo. That is your undo button. You click on that and it undoes whatever you just did. And you can click and click and click and click and click. I mean, you can go all the way backwards if you want. It does it step by step by step. Now I undid that. So if you'll notice, when I click here in my range name, I no longer have a name range because it undid what I just did. Okay. This little part here, if you click on that FX, it will pop up a formula, what they call a formula argument box. We are not going to get into formulas at all tonight because that is not beginner Excel, but I just wanted to show you what that is and what it does. So we're just going to close that out. And then this bar up here, this is anything you write inside of a cell. Silly. It shows up here. This is called the formula bar. And the reason it's called that, see how that, can you see how it popped up because my cursor is hovering over it? It's called the formula bar because if you had a formula in this cell, you wouldn't see the formula inside the cell. You would see the results of the formula, but you would see the formula actually typed out up here. That's why it's called a formula bar. Okay, I'm going to move on. Let me take a look and see if I forgot anything. Oh, the one thing I did also want to just mention very quickly is if you do maximize your spreadsheet so that it takes up the whole screen, and then you're like, wait, how do I get back? If you hit the escape button on your desktop, it should, there you go, it'll bring you back. So escape button. Okay. All right, now we're going to move into the home tab. Home tab. I'm going to tell you what just happened. I had it open. You can see the home ribbon underneath here. I tapped on it and suddenly my ribbon disappeared. I tap on it again and my ribbon reappears again. So if something happens and your ribbon suddenly disappears, don't worry, it's still there. Just click on your tab name one more time and it'll reappear again. I'm going to get rid of this word silly so we have a nice fresh clean slate. The other thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to have to change my screen, I think. I created a very simple little Excel sheet earlier. Can everyone see the new Excel sheet that I just opened up? It's got some data pieces in it, names and ages and zip codes. Can everyone see that? Someone give me a yes or no? Nope, can't see it. All right, I'm gonna have to go back out here and reshare the screen again. So give me 1 second while I figure that out. How are we doing now? Better? Okay, fantastic, thank you. Okay, so I am in my home tab. This is my home ribbon. And this is where a lot of the really basic stuff is that you use all the time. The first thing what you'll find in this box is how you change your fonts. So if I click one time in a cell, what that means is that means that whatever I do, I apply to the entire cell. So any and all data inside that cell will be affected. So I click the cell one time, and then let's say I want to change the font. See how that changed that font? Took a few moments because I, again, have a very old computer, but can everybody see that? Now, if I want to change it back again, no, I didn't really like that. I go up here to my undo button. I click it and my font went back to normal. So up here we have font, we have size, and change the size of your font. This is where we have bold, italicize, underline. Anytime you see a tiny little arrow, that means you have more menu items underneath it. So that's what this is. This is for filling the color behind in your cell. So if I want to make it yellow, I click, and now you see this entire cell is yellow. The letters in it are still black because I did not change my text color. I changed my cell background color. And again, little arrow, so you've got all kinds of color choices in here. I can go up to my undo button and undo that. This time, here, you guys can probably figure out what this is. This changes your text color. And again, the little arrow, you've got all kinds of choices here. I'm gonna undo that. Now let's say I wanna change the color of this entire first column. There are a couple of ways I can do that. One, I can click one time, holding my cursor or my mouse down and dragging my cursor down. So now I've highlighted all of those cells. I can change the color of my text. I can change the background. And it's done it for all of them. I'm gonna undo. Uh-oh, look at what I have here. I have a redo button. Thank goodness for redo buttons. Okay, I'm going to drag it down. I'm going to change this back to automatic, which means black. The other way that you can highlight an entire column, you can do this with columns and rows, is if you come up here to the top of the column, A, B, C, etc. See how my cursor has changed into a downward arrow? I click once, the entire column is highlighted. But now notice, please, the highlight did not stop where my data stopped. It goes all the way down. There have been data sheets that I've messed up because I've changed the background color and I've highlighted the entire column or the entire row without keeping in mind where my data stopped, and it messed up my the formatting on my spreadsheet. So just be mindful of that. You can do the same thing with rows. See here with rows, if I go in where it says 1, 2, 3, my cursor changes into a right facing arrow. If I click once, the entire row is highlighted. I can now highlight an entire row. I can do the same thing up here. I can change the color. Or I can go at the very top where it says no fill, click no fill, and that puts it back so that there's nothing there. Let's see. Okay, so what I have here is a very, very, very small, simple set of data. But let's say at the top, I need to create a new row up above where it says first, last, age, city, zip. I want to create a new row. So I put my cursor so that it's in the 1 facing right, and then I'm going to right click. I right click, and anytime you right click in a cell, it gives you other menu options. Here, I can do insert, and it inserts a blank row above where I had my cursor. I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to show you another way to do that. Again, I've highlighted this row. I moved my cursor, right facing arrow, and I clicked once to highlight the entire row. We're still in the home tab. I go to my ribbon all the way over to the right, and here, insert, delete, and format with these tiny little arrows next to them. I click on the little arrow next to insert. I can insert a sheet row. I can insert an entire sheet, or I can insert cells. I'm going to insert a sheet row, and it did the same thing. It created a new row for me. So now I'm going to type in names and ages of people. Now I've typed all of that into cell A1. All of those words are only in cell A1. Right now it looks like they move over to cell B1, but in fact they don't. If I click in cell B1 and I start typing something, not. You see how the words from cell A1 disappear? They have moved back behind cell B1, and now the words that I've started typing in cell B1, you can see them. Well, what if we wanted this to be the title of our table, but we want it to actually stay like this so you can see? This is what's called merging cells. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my cursor in that lower right-hand corner of the cell. And notice when I do that, right now my cursor is sort of a puffed up plus sign. As I move it into the corner, it becomes a much smaller, narrower black plus sign. I'm going to click once and drag this over, and you'll notice I've got 3 cells highlighted here, A1, B1, and C1. And what has happened is the names and ages of people, it starts in A1, but then it starts again in B1, names and it starts again in C1, names and. What I want to do is I want to go up here into my home ribbon, up in the middle here where it says merge and center. And you have a couple of different options. We're just simply going to click where it says merge and center. It's going to say, wait, just be careful, because if I had something else written in cell B1, it will disappear. If I had something else written in cell C1, it will disappear. And I said, that's okay. Now that runs across all 3 of these cells, A1, B1, and C1. This is called merging cells. This is how you can get titles that run across columns. Okay? We're going to go ahead and get rid of that because that'll get in our way later as we start doing other things. And I also want to get rid of that row. So this wonderful little undo button up here, I just undid. And if I undid one step too far, I've got my redo button as well. So we don't have to worry about that. Is everybody still with me? Someone give me a hand or a raised hand or something? Okay, great, wonderful, thank you, perfect. Okay, now let's say, this time I'm gonna ignore what I've already written and I'm just gonna do something in an arbitrary cell, okay? Let's say down here, I start typing in, the text of this table is too big for this cell. And I probably made some spelling mistakes because I'm not a great typist. Again, we notice there's way too many words to fit into this one teeny tiny little cell. But we want all of these words to be read, and we don't want to change the width of our column. So what do? What we can do is, I'm gonna hit enter, so that's there. Now, clicked once in the cell, you notice that. First I typed everything and I hit enter so that the words are in the cell. Now, came back out, clicked once in the cell, and now up here where it says wrap text, we can shrink the text to fit, although that'd be really itty bitty teeny tiny, we wouldn't be able to see anything, or we can wrap our text. And what that's gonna do, notice it did not change the width of our column, but what it did was it changed the height of the row so that all of the text appears inside of that one cell. And if you'll notice, the entire row had to adjust for this. But if you want to type in, you know, a lot of information into one cell, but you still want it all to be read at a glance, this is how you would do it using this wrap text feature. Now I'm going to undo that. Undo. All right. And speaking of adjusting height and width of cells, we can do it to cells. We can do it into entire rows. There are a couple of different ways to do it. We are still in the Home tab. We are still using the Home ribbon. Okay. Now let's say, again, I'm going to ignore what's up here and I'm going to come just type in some random cells down here below. Let's say I want to type in the word big. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to change that to a 36 font. Did it work? No, I didn't hit enter. That's why it didn't work. I didn't hit enter. The text had not been entered into the cell, which is why it didn't work when I first did it. I hit enter. I've now gone back to the cell and clicked once. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to change nice and big. Okay. Now I want you, let me see if it'll work for me. What I want to do though is I don't want this so big. I want it smaller. I can highlight the entire row. I moved my cursor over to the number 16. It turns into a right-facing arrow. I click once, the entire row is highlighted. Now what I'm gonna do here is come up to my home ribbon and let me see if I can find it here. Nope, not that one. There we go. Gotta move my chat window here. Okay, so under here at format, on a PC, it might say cells, but what you have here are row height, auto fit row height, column width, auto fit column width. So I can either click row height and I can decide how high I want this row. The 62 refers to the number of characters, normal like 12 font characters that it thinks it could fit into the cell. So right now, if I were at a normal font size, this says I would be able to fit 62 characters into this cell. I want it to be smaller. I want it to be 40. And I click OK. And it made my row height smaller. I can do the same thing with a column. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to come over here to a column. I'm going to highlight the entire column. Again, is it format? I can decide what my column width is. I want it to be 40. Now it's going to be really wide. See? Really wide. There's another way to do this. If you put your cursor on the line in between two columns, See how my cursor changes? So it's the black line and then an arrow pointing in either direction. I can click and drag, and that will change. And you can see how wide or narrow it is as you're clicking and dragging, and that will change it. You can do the same thing to rows. You put your cursor on that little line right in between the rows. It changes into the black line with an arrow pointing in either direction. Click and drag, and it changes. This is also a nice way for you to see how high a column or row is. So if you want other columns and rows to match it, you can actually look at the number, so you can see that. One of the other ways to do it, notice here in this column C, where it's age, notice how much empty space is in there. One way to make your column or your row automatically fit what information is inside of it. I'm going to put my cursor, now I'm going to hope this works. I'm going to put my cursor here, again, on that little line in between the C and the D. Let's see if this will work. I double clicked. So let me undo, and I'll redo it again. I put my cursor on the little line in between the C and the D. You probably do it. Nope. It's going to affect it's going to affect the column to the left of your cursor, and it will affect the row above. So I put my cursor in between that, on that little line in between C and D. It turns into the double pointing arrows. I double click, and then the column will automatically adjust to the right width for exactly what's inside of it. And you can do the same thing with rows. Oh, yeah, I'm going to get moving on because I don't want to take up, I want to make sure we get through everything. Okay, so that's going to be it for the home ribbon. One of the things you really have to do is you just have to start playing around in these ribbons. You'll notice that there were some things I didn't go into. These ribbons, every single one of them have lots and lots and lots of tools. So we're only going to be doing some because this is an introduction to Excel, but just be willing to play. Be willing to come up here and play around with some of these things. You can always use that undo button to undo if something happens that you didn't want it to happen, or you can redo. So don't worry about it. Just be willing to play a little bit. Next, we're going to go to the Insert tab, which opens up the Insert ribbon. Insert, as you could probably guess, is for inserting things into your spreadsheet. It occurred to me that I forgot to tell you guys something. I'm going to go ahead and interrupt myself. I apologize for this. I'm going to go ahead and interrupt myself. It occurs to me that I forgot to go over what is down here at the bottom of your spreadsheet. This is how you create new sheets. So I've got sheet 1 here. If I wanted to rename sheet 1, I would double click on it and rename it. Hit the enter key, or I'm going to undo that. Oh dear, what did I undo? Leave that alone. So double click, or what you can do is right click, and you have a rename. Then you come to this little thing, it says new sheet. Sure enough, if you click on it, you have a new sheet. So here is my rename. This is my first sheet with my little table on it. Here is now another sheet. This is how you can create new sheets. I don't want this sheet. I right click on it and I can delete this sheet. Okay. If you have lots and lots of sheet tabs down here, these buttons are how you would control which ones you see. Down here, these are our sheet layouts, how we view them. This one, as you can see, my cursor says normal. This one says page layout. If you were to print this, this is how your sheet would break itself up into pages. This one says page break preview. So it shows you where my little page break is. Itty bitty. I'm gonna go back to normal. And I'm gonna move it back up again so we're back up at the top. This sliding scale here is the zoom. So you can make your spreadsheet smaller. You can make your spreadsheet bigger. So if you want to see a lot in a small space, I'm trying to get it right back to 100%. Or if you want to make it big because, like me, your eyes are getting a little hard to see and you need to make it big. So that's what these things are. Okay, I interrupted myself. Now we're back. So we're back to the Insert tab, Insert ribbon. And as I was saying, the point of insert is to insert things here. The first thing you can insert is a table. Now, right now, I have columns and rows with data, but that's all it is. It's columns and rows of data, but it's not a coherent whole. The difference between what I have right now and a table is recognized in Excel as a coherent whole. Right now, I just have individual cells with pieces of data in them. I want this to be a table. I can highlight everything that I have, click and drag and highlight it all. Or if you put your cursor up here where that little triangle is and click once, you highlight your entire spreadsheet. But my table is very small, so I'm just going to click and highlight it. And in my Insert tab, up here in my ribbon, there's the word table. I click once, it says my table has headers. Be very careful to watch for this, because if your table does have headers, as mine does, and it's not clicked, it will mess up your table. Or if your table does not have headers and it is clicked, it will mess up your table. So make sure you pay attention to this. I click OK. This is just telling me where it is. Yes, that's correct. It's OK. Now, if you'll look, now I have a table. What are the differences? The difference is, one, it's recognizing the fact that I have headers on each column. It is making it easy for me to read my table by alternating, highlighting, and not highlighting each row. And the most important part are these little boxes at the top of each column next to each one. And what those are filters. If I click on one, I have some filter options. I can say I want these all to be ascending alphabetical order. And I do that by clicking the ascending button. And if you'll notice, they changed. And when it changes, all of the information across the row changes as well to make sure everything stays together. Because again, now Excel is recognizing this as a coherent whole, not individual cells filled with data. Now, if I go to something else, now I want them, right now, they are not in ascending order in terms of age. I want them that way. I don't want them by first names. I want them by age. So I click here. Again, I hit the word ascending. If you'll notice, now my ages are in ascending order. This little box went back to being just an upside down triangle because I'm no longer using this filter. Now you can see this box does not have that little triangle. It's really hard to see, but what it has is a tiny little filter symbol and then an arrow showing that I have filtered this by ascending order. So this is one of the greatest reasons for creating tables, is so that you have this filtering ability, so that you can look at the data in your tables in different ways for different reasons without having to rework any of the information that's inside of your table. Are we all good? Everybody still with me? Perfect, thank you. Okay, now we get to do some fun things. So now let's say that, who knows why, I'm going back to my Insert tab. I'm in my Insert ribbon. Let's say I want to insert an arrow pointing to one particular row. Who knows why, but let's just say I do. You go up here to Shapes, click the arrow, and I've got all these shapes, and notice I have more. I have lots of shapes that I can insert here. I'm going to click this shape. My cursor has turned into a little plus sign. I'm going to click and drag, and now I have an arrow. You'll notice immediately my ribbon up here changed to shape format to give you tools to do things with this arrow. I could change the color inside my arrow. I can I can make it funny things. This is one thing that's really helpful to me in terms of, like, if you're creating a line or something, you can change the weight. Notice how the border got thicker there. And see how it has the little line around it? If you put your cursor on the square in a corner, and this is the best way to change the size of your shape or your photo or anything, because it keeps it proportional. Don't pull it straight down or straight up or straight out. Go into a corner. See how my cursor changed? I'm going to click and drag the corner because that keeps the proportions of your image correct. So I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. And if I click on the outer line, the outer border, see how my cursor has changed into these 4 pointing arrows? As long as it's in that shape, I can move this anywhere I want. If I click inside, well, this is a shape, it won't really do it. I could actually start typing and type letters inside of here, which is kind of fun. But so I can move this anywhere I want. I can change the size, and just to be really fun, notice this little semicircle up here? I can change its direction. I can move it all around and have it be like this. And then once I click out of it, it's in my Excel sheet. Okay, so this is kind of fun. You can have a lot of fun with these. Right now, I clicked on it so you see the borders outlining it, and I'm going to hit the delete button on my computer. And it's gone. The other thing we can insert your own picture. So I'm going to go back to my Insert tab. I'm going to go here to Pictures. I'm going to take a picture off of my computer and insert it into the spreadsheet. Let's see, I'll take this one. Need to move the chat box out of the way. Hit Insert. There, now I have a great, big, huge picture inside of my spreadsheet. I'm going to go to the corner. I'm going to drag it down. I'm going to find my 4 facing arrows and pull it up so I can see what I'm working with here. Drag it down, make it nice and small, move it wherever I want to move it. So this is, you could insert pictures. You can, I think this is amazing. Hopefully this will work with the screen sharing. Give me a minute here, please, because I'm going to show you how you can take a screen clipping from a browser window and insert it into your Excel. So again, hopefully this will work. By the way, you notice once I inserted this picture, it automatically brought me into the picture format tab and the picture format ribbon, so I can do all kinds of fun things with my picture. But right now I'm going to go back to Insert. I'm going to go here, take a screenshot. I'm in the Insert tab, Insert ribbon, where it says Pictures, Shapes, Icons. This one up here, insert a smart art graphic, take a screenshot. On a PC, these are going to be slightly different, but it'll be in the same general area. So again, hover your mouse and find the correct tool. If I click down, I can take a screen clipping. So if I click this, the spreadsheet I was just working in minimized at the bottom of my screen. Whatever else was open on my desktop behind it is what I'm now seeing. I don't know if you can tell or not, but it's a little bit grayed out, and my cursor is that little plus sign again, and I'm going to click and drag. Now my spreadsheet has come back, and this is my screenshot. And you can tell it's a screenshot because as I'm moving it, hopefully you can see that. Can you see how the cells are independent from the cells on this one? There, that's easiest to see. This is an actual screenshot. So let's say if you were on a website and there was a photo that you wanted, or a logo, or anything like that, that would have been really cumbersome to try and save the image to your desktop, or you know, move it around. This is a very quick, easy way to get it from one place to the other. One thing though, please do be careful of copyright. You don't want to just be taking people's things off of their copyrighted material off of their website or off of their blog or wherever and inserting it into your own screen, into your own spreadsheet. Be careful of that. But this is a great way to get a screenshot into your spreadsheet. I'm going to hit the delete button on my computer, and that went away. But one of the things I'm going to show you how to do, which is kind of fun, is, okay, we're going to go back up to insert. Now I have one photo here. I'm going to go back to pictures. I'm going to go back to picture from files. So again, I'm looking at files that are on my home computer. There's another one. Open it back up. Make it small. Drag it up so I can see what I'm doing. Make it small. Drag it up so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. And I'm putting it on top of this one. Now I'm going to do this again. I'm going to go to insert. I'm going to go to picture. Picture from file. I'm looking at the files that are on my computer. I'm picking one. I'm inserting it. Make it small. Drag it up. Don't worry. This is getting a little repetitive here, but there's a reason for it. Okay. Now, let me make that a little smaller so it's a little more in proportion. Okay. Now notice what I've done with these three pictures. Obviously, I've laid them on top of each other. We are in the picture format tab with the picture format ribbon. It automatically brought us here when I inserted a photo. I haven't clicked out of that photo yet. You'll see that I'm still clicked in the photo. What I have over here are some layering options. This photo right now is sitting on the top of the pile of photos. Think of this as if you would three physical photos lying on a table. One's on the bottom, one's in the middle, one's on the top. This one's on the top right now. I can send it backwards. If I send it backward, you'll notice the picture that was in the middle is now on top of the one that was on top. But the one that was on top is still on top of the one on the bottom. I hope this is making sense. If I send it to back, different than sending backwards, if I send it to back, it goes all the way in the back. Now you see here the corner of this one has popped up. And you can see that best if I start moving this around. See, it's underneath both of those. In the beginning, it was on top. Now it's underneath both. So you can layer your photographs as you want. It's just a fun little tool. Okay. Now I'm going to click in one photo. You can tell I'm in it, one, because I was immediately put into the picture format tab and the ribbon appeared. But two, you can see the border of it. So I have choices. I can do things with it. One of the things I can do is hit my delete button and make it go away. And make that one go away. And make that one go away. Okay. And now you'll see it took me back to my home tab. A lot of times once you do something, Excel will bring you back home. It likes to do that quite a bit. The last thing I'm going to show you in this tab, insert. We are in the insert tab. This is the insert ribbon. The last thing I'm going to show you here, all the way over to the right, text. If you click this, you can actually create a text box in your Excel spreadsheet. I've just created a text box. I have open space now to write something. I hope this class is going well. So this is now text that I can put on top of the cells in my spreadsheet. I can, and notice it took me back home again because I'm in text, so now I can control my text. I can make it a different font. Okay. But if I go back to insert and I go back to insert text, I can insert word art, which is fun. So let's say I want to do it this way. Now I have a fun text art book. Now, see how much more fun that is? Okay, this is just kind of fun parts, but actually there's real purpose for this in an Excel spreadsheet, especially if you're doing work spreadsheets, if you need to put logos in it, if you need to create it for a presentation so that it actually looks really nice. So there are actual work reasons other than just playing to use word art to create word texts inside of an Excel spreadsheet. All right, I think that's it for the insert ribbon. Next one we're going to do is the page layout ribbon. And you can see that up here, page layout. Everyone can still see my spreadsheet, correct? I haven't fallen out of screen share. Okay, thank you. I love how responsive you guys are. Thank you so much. That really helps me. Okay, page layout. Page layout does kind of what you would expect it to do. It helps you lay out the page of your spreadsheet. The first thing we can do, again, these are sort of fun, but also important. Again, if you're doing business spreadsheets that you're going to be presenting, you can, over here under themes, you can change the theme of your table in particular. These themes include color schemes as well as font schemes and size schemes. So my table's small and it kind of gets hid behind this when it's here. But hopefully you'll be able to, so see this change the color, but it will also change the font and a little bit of the sizing. So the entire look of your table changes. You'll notice my columns just got wider. So that's one thing you can do here playing with themes. You can also come here to colors and change the color scheme of your table and whatever else is on your spreadsheet. If I also had some text art here or what else, shapes or that kind of stuff, that would also all be affected by these themes and the colors, okay? And that is again under the page layout tab in the page layout ribbon. The other thing we do here is we can adjust the margins. A lot of what's underneath page layout is meant for a spreadsheet that is going to be either presented or, more importantly, printed. So really think of this tab, page layout, and these tools in the ribbon. Think of these if you're thinking of printing your spreadsheet for whatever reason. We have here margins, so you can change the margins, normal, wide, narrow, or custom margins if you're printing. We have orientation, if you want it to be portrait or landscape. Size, okay, so again, this really all deals with printing. The other thing is that if you have, say, let's say this was a very large table and I only needed a portion of it. Let's say I only wanted these first 3 columns. I can go to print area. I highlighted it, if you'll notice. Go to print area, set print area. I click on this. You'll notice here, this range is now called print area. And then if I actually go to print, and I hope this works, you'll notice this is the only part that's going to be printed. And depending on what it is, be very careful to look for this scale to fit. Because if it's large, let's say it's 6 columns, and in your margins, only 4 columns will fit across a normal printed page. If you set your print area and then make sure to hit that scale to fit, it will shrink it so that you get all 6 columns across your 1 page of paper. So this can be very useful when you're trying to print something that otherwise you'd have to be messing around with page breaks, which can get messy. So this can be very useful when you go to print portion of a spreadsheet. And of course, obviously, you can clear your print area. You notice here my range table is no longer called print area. And I can just hop right out of that. Okay. On a PC, a lot of times in the print area, you'll see in the corner, see these little lines that sort of separate these areas here in the ribbon? You'll see a tiny little box or two sides of a box on a PC. If you click on that, a window will open up, and that's where you'll find the scale to fit function. So again, with page area, make sure you hit that scale function as well. Okay, let's say, again, for presentation purposes, I need to put a nice background. Let's say your business logo. You want your business logo as the background behind your screen, your spreadsheet. Right up here at the top, again, we're in the page layout tab. In the page layout ribbon, we have background. Yep, question? I see hand raised. We good? Everybody okay? All right, I see here background. So again, it will open up files on your computer. Let's say you have your logo. I don't have a logo saved on my computer, so I'm just gonna open up one of those pictures I had. You click insert. It is inserted as the background to your entire spreadsheet. Please notice some text is very hard to see depending on what you put as that background, but this is something that you can do. I'm going to delete my background. Please notice how that changed. Now I can delete my background. I hit it once and it's gone. I also could have come up here to my undo button and undid it as well. All right. And I already did that. Okay, next we're gonna go very quickly. Oops, hold on. I got some Q&A. Can I use my mic to ask a question? Type your question in first into the chat box, not the Q&A. Don't use the Q&A, please use the chat box. Go ahead and type in, I want the picture as my grandson. I'm not sure what that means, but that's kind of funny. Go ahead and type your question into the chat box. I'm gonna keep talking for just a moment while you type, but I'll keep my eye on that chat box for the question. How do I change the image to, oh, how do I change the image to my grandson? Do you have a picture? You'd have to have a picture of your grandson saved on your desktop. So once you have a picture, can I use my microphone? I can't type well. John, this is John, correct? Hang on, John. You know what, I have one more tab that I'm gonna go over very quickly. And once I finish that, then we'll come back, okay? Is that okay for you, John? Okay, thank you. Very quickly, what I wanna do is I wanna show you the formula ribbon. We are not gonna go over anything really in this ribbon because it's not basic Excel, except one particular formula so that I can show you some tips. But this is the formula tab, this is the formula ribbon. Obviously, the real strength of Excel is its ability to compute and to do all kinds of formula-like functions. When I go through some tips for you, I'm gonna use the auto sum formula because it's the one that most people who don't use formulas, that's the one formula they might actually use when you're making a home budget spreadsheet, for example. That's this auto sum. It's sort of this weird backwards 3. I believe it's a Greek symbol, Greek alphabet symbol. That is the auto sum. You can find it here in the formulas tab, but I want to show you if you go to the home tab, whoops, made it go away. If you go to the home tab, it is so popular and used by so many people that it's right here in the home tab. All the way over to the right, you will find the sum and a few other really common formulas over here in your home tab, okay? But this is the formulas tab with the formulas ribbon. You can find the sum here. This is where you can You can open up the formula. They call it a formula builder or a formula argument box. We were able to do that right from this little feature right here, which is always there as well. I'm going to X out of that. And so that's the formula tab. And that's all I'm going to do is just show you that it's there and say, if you want to, go on in here and have fun and start figuring out how to use some of these. But this is a basic Excel, so we're not going to go into it. Other than, as I said, I am going to show you a tip or two, and we'll be using the auto sum for that. Before we get into that, I want to see if we can help John out here with his grandson's photos. So unfortunately, John, I cannot turn on your mic, so I cannot help you with that. If you want to put a photo of your grandson, or if any of you want to put a specific photo, now again, this is the background to your spreadsheet. This is not the background to your desktop. This is not your wallpaper. This is the background to one specific spreadsheet. This won't happen every single time you open up a new spreadsheet. First, you have to have the file saved. I'm going to go here back into the I'm going to go back into the page layout tab, which is where the background feature is in the page layout ribbon. When I click on background, it's going to open up all the files that I have on my computer. So whatever background you want to put in there has to already be a file on your computer. And the other thing I want you to notice is that some of the files on my computer are grayed out. Excel files, PowerPoint files, Word document files are grayed out. The only thing I can see are PNGs or JPEGs, basically, because those are image files, and that's what you would put as the background on your spreadsheet. Is any of this helping you, John? Is John still there? Okay, all right. We've got just about a half hour to go. I've got a few tips and tricks I want to show you here, and then hopefully we'll have time for some Q&A at the very end. Although again, please don't use your Q&A, use the chat box. Hi, can you repeat the last step? Chad, go in the chat box, please, not the Q&A, the chat box, and tell me which last step you want me to repeat, and I'll be happy to repeat it for you. Giving Chad a few seconds here to type. No, John and Chad have both gone away. Okay, then I'm just going to keep moving on. Again, please use the chat box, not the Q&A. The chat box is staying open on my computer, and I can see as soon as someone types in it. The Q&A is not, so I am lagging, as you can tell, on the Q&A. And now I need it all to go away. Okay, first tip. This is a fairly basic tip, but it can be a little frustrating if you don't really realize what's going on. There is a difference between single clicking in a cell and double clicking in a cell. If I single click a cell, I am affecting that entire cell. Anything that I do will affect everything in the cell. If I am going to go back to my home tab here, again, I've clicked once in this cell. If I change the font, it changes in that cell. Notice only this cell. It does not change any other cell. It only affects the one cell that I'm in, but it affects the entire word that's in that cell. And If I start typing, what was in the cell has now disappeared, and what I started typing appeared over it. So Bill is no longer in that cell. Now the word Robert is in that cell. Okay? If I double click in the cell, now if you'll notice my cursor is blinking, now I can actually edit what is in the cell. I am not replacing, I am now editing. So now I can either edit here in the cell, or if you'll notice the word Robert, whatever is written in your cell is written up here in the formula bar. I can come up here and edit what's in the cell. So I actually wanted to say Rupert, and I hit enter. A single click affects the entire cell. It did that because I'd written in the word Billy once before and it remembered it and thought maybe that's what I wanted. If I single click, it affects the entire cell. If I double click, then I can edit what is in the cell without changing everything. So now I have double clicked in the cell. I know that because I can see my cursor is blinking at me. Now if I go up and do this and change my font, it doesn't do anything because I'm not affecting the entire cell. I am editing what's inside the cell and I didn't highlight it. So now I double click in the cell. You can tell that because my cursor is blinking. I come up to my formula bar where the word is. I highlight the word and I change the font and now it goes back. That is the difference between single clicking and double clicking. It's very important to know the difference between those two. Please also remember that anytime you go into a cell, you can right click on the cell and you will get an entire drop-down menu of various things that you can do to it. You can insert, you can cut and paste, put a comment in your cell. That's a little more advanced than what we're dealing with right now. But so you have an entire menu here. That's if you right click. And I'm assuming all of you know, but it's never good to assume. Anytime a word in a menu has a little arrow next to it, it means you have more options for that. So if you click on it, you will get more options. Okay? So that's right clicking on any cell. There's nothing, I'm trying to right click. There we go. I right clicked in this cell. I still have options even though there's nothing in that cell. So there's really nothing for me to do. But this is, so that's single clicking, double clicking, and then right clicking. Now, here's something called autofill. This is really useful. Oh, there's a question from Catherine. When adding pictures, can they be added to a specific cell or do they always lay on top of the grid? If you're inserting a picture, it will be inserted. If you come up here to insert and you use this function to picture, right? And then you put a picture, insert. It's laying over and you move it wherever you want and you resize it as I showed you. I'm going to get rid of that. Let's right click on the cell and notice there's an insert here. But this only allows you to insert and shift cells. So I'm going to say no. I'll be honest, I've never tried to insert a picture into a specific cell. So I'm going to go with a no on that one. I think what the workaround would be, you would insert a picture as we did, go up to insert, go to picture. And then if you really wanted it to quote unquote fit in a cell, you would have to work with both the sizing of the cell and the sizing of the picture to make the two fit inside each other. Does that make sense, Catherine? Catherine? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. Autofill. If you are creating a spreadsheet and you're, especially the rows have numbers, but let's say you're creating a list and you want this to be A, and then B, and then C, and you really don't want to have to go all the way down to Z. Excel will autofill for you. If you notice, when I put my cursor on the lower right-hand corner again, and my cursor turns into that little square, we did this when I was merging cells. Do you guys remember that? So when we were merging cells, I would do this, and I pulled it over. It repeated, and I went up in my Home tab to merge and center. Yes, I want it to all be one cell, and it merged. So that's where you see that. But this time, I want to undo that. Again, if I make it my cursor in the lower right-hand corner and I make it turn into that little skinny little black plus sign, and I pull down, you'll see that it automatically puts C's in all the cells, but you see what's at the bottom here? You see that little box with the orange plus in it? Autofill options. If I click on the arrow, I have options. What it did was it copied the cells, but maybe I didn't want it to copy the cells. I wanted it to fill formatting or no formatting or flash fill. I can't do flash fill because I don't have it. If I do, hold on, I'm going to show this to you again. A, because I kind of interrupted myself. B, C. Now let's see if it'll figure out. No, it won't figure this out. Let's see if it'll figure out this way. No, it can't figure that out. Hang on, guys. We're going to make this work. Let's see if I can make it work. Oh, it can't figure out A, B, C, D. It can, however, figure out 1. There we go, fill series. That's what I wanted to show you. So right now it copied the cells, but I could tell it to fill the series instead. And it automatically numbers for you all the way down. If you say January, notice how the little hover box is changing months. January, February, March, April, May. Excel knows that one. Now I could tell it to copy the cells and it'll just put January in every one. Or I could tell it to fill the series. Or I could tell it to fill the months, which is the same thing. And this is where I told you that sum comes useful, because it'll do the same thing for formulas. Now let's say I'm going to put 2, 12, 45, 67. Okay. And now this one I'm going to put 3, 56, 4, 1. And now on this one. Okay. I want to sum these up. I'm going to highlight the cell where I want the total to be. I clicked once, I highlighted the cell where I want the total to be. I'm in my Home tab, my Home ribbon, all the way to the right is that auto sum feature that is so very, very, very useful. I click it once, and look what happened over here. A formula showed up in that cell that I wanted. I can either allow it to stay like this, or I can say, no, I really only wanted these 4. And I hit my Enter key on my computer. Now, look up here where the formula bar is. This is why it's called the formula bar. In the cell is 135, but what's behind that 135 is a formula. And this is where you can see what that formula is. And in more advanced Excel classes, this is where you would learn how to edit or change those formulas. We're not going to worry about that right now. But you can see that there's a formula in here. But now I want that same thing to happen here in the next column, and I want the same thing to happen in this column. Well, I could just go through the same process I just did. It wasn't terribly onerous. I could do that. Or I can, again, lower right-hand corner of the cell that has the formula in it. My cursor turns into that small black plus sign. I click and I drag, and it drags the formula over. And if you'll notice, now I'm going to click in here. So I clicked here, right? Sum B12 to B15 because I am in the B column, B12 to B15. But now if I click here, C12 to C15, Excel knew to change the formula to recognize the column that I'm in. And again here, D12 to D15. So this is a really nice, that autofill feature is really nice to use if you're creating a calendar or if you have to number things or if you need to move formulas. You can use that autofill feature. It's a really nice feature. And I think that is the last tip that I have for you. We have about 15 more minutes. So that is all I have on my prepared sheet. So if anyone has a question or if they were hoping to learn something I didn't go over and it's at the basic level, I'm going to give you guys, I'm just going to be quiet for about 20 seconds and I'm going to let you think about if there's anything I didn't cover that you really wanted me to, or if you have a question that I didn't answer. So I'll be quiet for a few seconds here and let you guys think about that. Please, again, write it in the chat box, not in the question and answer box, but in the chat box. Thanks for the class. I have no questions. Excellent. Wonderful. Is this the wrong class to explain? Yes, this is the wrong class. I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Catherine. This is the wrong class for pivot tables. We do an advanced Excel class that will be coming up this summer. So keep your eyes open for that. It will be advertised on our library's calendar and through social media. It's called Excel 201. And you'll be able to ask questions about pivot tables in that class. If nobody else has any other questions, I did want to share with you one resource. So if you don't want to wait for the summer, Catherine, to figure out pivot tables, or for any of the rest of you who are here, if you don't want to wait and you want to just get going right away, the library has a really great resource. I'm going to try and change my screen to show it to you guys. And if I lose you, let me know, okay? And I'll hop back over again. Okay, can you guys see the library's website right now? Is my screen still sharing properly? No. Okay, give me a second. Let me redo this again. Oh, hold on. How about now? Can you guys see the library's website? Okay, good. So what I want to show you is if you come into the library's website, as long as you have a Glen Ellyn library card, and if you don't have a library card, but you live in the 60137 area, you can get one digitally while the library is closed. You can find information on the library's website on how to do that. But if you come here to the library's website, you go to Digital Library. Oops. Go all the way down to the bottom, all digital resources. Click on it. It's going to take you to an alphabetical list of all the databases we have at the library. The one I want to show you is L for lynda.com. For anyone who isn't already familiar with Lynda, it is an amazing resource. It was actually bought by LinkedIn. But it's an incredible resource of, as you see here, it's a video library. So lots and lots and lots of video tutorials, vetted, given by people who are experts in their field. There are lots of programs in here on Excel, on Word, on PowerPoint, on pretty much anything else you could want. So if you want to be able to learn more about how to use Excel at a deeper level, lynda.com is the great place to come to, because you don't have to wait for anybody else. You can do it on your own time. When you click into Lynda, it will ask for your library card and your PIN. You will have to put in your library card number and your PIN. But it's a great place to go for resources for additional learning. All right, are there any other questions? We're a little bit early leaving, but I don't think anybody would mind an extra 10 minutes to their evening. No other questions? I'm going to type in here my work email address. So if anyone does have questions, you can reach out to me at this my work email address, and I will see if I can follow up and help. And if you want me to send you an email with the attached handout that I just used to walk through all of this, the handout doesn't tell you how to do what we did, but it does list for you what we did. If you want that as a resource, please feel free to go ahead and shoot me an email and ask for it, and I will send it back to you. So if no other questions, then thank you all very, very much for showing up tonight, and you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and please stay healthy and keep an eye on the library for everything we're trying to do for you while we're closed, and we will eventually be reopened. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.